What's up out there? We have some new Brighter Shores updates. I mainly wanted to talk about this per episode combat professions, but then I scrolled up slightly and noticed that we had a patch yesterday where you can now customize your keybinds from the settings panel, which sounds cool. I'm gonna have to check on that. I don't know what we can keybind now because I just now saw this for some reason. And then the close interface keybind now works on more interfaces. Cool, I like that. You can now click on the mini map to walk only as far as an adjacent room, which is massive. I love that. That's really cool. And your route path is now shown on the mini map. Improve the quest difficulty indicator and various bug fixes. I literally just now saw that and think that's awesome. What we're here to talk about is this per episode combat professions message that popped up yesterday. I like this and I want to discuss it. We're gonna read through this, but I want to throw in some of my own thoughts on this as we go. So let's dive into this. This is their introduction that they provided, and it says, one aspect of Brighter Shores design which has resulted in a lot of discussion has been our decision to have a separate combat profession per episode. So I thought I should explain our reasoning for this and our plan changes in response to player feedback. I love when developers sit down and explain their philosophy behind what they're doing. I think this is fantastic. It's transparent, I guess, and all that, but I like to have an explanation. And Brighter Shores is a very simple game, and a lot of things you can figure out yourself, but I've been looking at some of the things that they've been putting out. They don't really explain everything, and you have to read the messages that they post because it's not all in the game. So even though it's a simple game, there's still a lot of things that aren't quite as explained as well as they could be. I'd also love to see a roadmap for this. I've looked around briefly and I didn't really see anything sitting out there, but I'd love to see a roadmap for it. But anyway, let's continue on. First, I would like to just reassure you that your hard work leveling up your professions is definitely not wiped, reset, or made irrelevant when you get to a new episode. When I read this post yesterday, I hadn't made it into episode 2, but since I have since made it into episode 2 after reading all this, and now it's starting to really come into focus, and and especially the more I get into this game, I'm starting to understand how things go. There's a few things that I thought were worthless, and I'm like, why would they have that? And then as I progress forward and other things unlocked, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So you kind of need to give this game a little bit of time and get into it and just see how things progress, because you're going to do a lot of things manually at first, or things might not make as much sense, but once you get into them a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, I understand why that's there. Anyway, when you reach episode 2, Hope Forest, 4 new professions are introduced: Scout, Woodcutter, Gatherer, and Carpenter. Your existing episode 1 professions remain untouched and are still useful anytime you are in Hopeport. You will find that you still regularly go back to Hopeport and use and further progress those professions. However, whilst you are in Hope Forest, you will predominantly be relying on your Hope Forest professions, which can feel a bit strange to start with. I wasn't really too discouraged by that. I thought, it is what it is. It was kind of an odd decision, and they're going to explain that here in a second, but it was not bad. It was just kind of I saw people talking about it. I hadn't experienced it yet. And like I said, I read this and then I got to episode 2. So it all kind of came together. I didn't get that jarring shock that, oh, everything starts over. It doesn't really start over. It's like new skills in a new episode, but it does, because it's new skills in a new episode and you're kind of giving up everything you did. But here's the reason for it. We have designed Brighter Shores to be enjoyable for both players who want to play the game many hours a day and for people who might only be able to play a few minutes a day. This means that in the future, some players will be much higher level than others. So I fit into both these categories. Let me tell you how I play this game, and let me tell you what I see Brighter Shores as. If I had to give a description for this game, I would call it a fidget spinner. That is the best description that I can give you for what Brighter Shores is for me. And I am in both sides of this sentence. I am a gamer who can play this many hours a day if I choose, or if I just want to check on it every little bit here and there. I fit both of those. And my primary game right now is Path of Exile. Hands down. I'm playing that. And I find it hard to bring other things in. There was that Curse Breaker or something like that. There was that game that came out that was sort of RuneScape like. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it came out into full release. And I had looked at it in one of my off the shelf videos here, or maybe it was one of the any of the game of the weeks when I was doing that series. Either way, I looked at that game. I played it for a while. I don't know, I got 6 or 10 hours into it or something like that. The problem with it is it's too focused on single player campaign, and it's not as focused on the fidget spinner aspect. And I think that's what a lot of people want. And, you know, like RuneScape, you go in, you click on a tree, and it does something. And then you got a dopamine hit because you get logs, and you can go do something with those logs. And that Cursebreaker game, it was more story oriented, and you had to focus on that. I just want to click on trees and stuff. Like I want to have the option for playing the game many hours a day or sitting back and just kind of clicking on things and not paying attention to it. This is not necessarily, I haven't tested it as a second monitor game, but I've definitely had it on the back burner on here. Like I'll go do something, do some web browsing or something like that. Like I might be planning out a PoE build or something, or looking at my build in the various tools we have for PoE, or looking something up for PoE. And I can go click on something like combat or whatever. I can hear it going off, and when it stops, I know to switch over, pick the next thing and go fight that. Or something will aggro and come over and just automatically start fighting. I can hear it going on in the background, but I don't have to work at it constantly. And I think that, I think this sentence right here, I think that's that's what I'm looking for. That's what I've been looking for, is something that I can just play casually, or I can play it directly, but it gives me an option. And that's how I see Melver Idle. That's one of the biggest things that I love about Melver Idle, is that it just can kind of sit there in the background. I don't necessarily have to interact with it all that much. I unlocked AFK combat yesterday, I think it was, in Brighter Shores. So I can do AFK combat and then come back and I've got some progress. I love that. That's what I love about Melver Idle. I can just check it here and there, and then when I'm ready to actively play it, I can do that. And that's really what I'm digging about Brighter Shores. So let's continue. However, when we introduce new episodes, we want them to be fun for everyone. But if there was a single combat profession across the whole game, and the monsters in episode 5 started at level 100, for example, then all the players who play a lot would already be a way higher level than that. Words are hard. They would find it way too easy, skipping past a huge chunk of the start of the episode, and then find that they don't have much to do. Conversely, all the players who only play a little would find it way too hard and wouldn't be able to take part in episode 5 at all. Here's the big thing that got my attention. Some games try to solve this problem by having a level cap to stop people from being too high. This cap is increased each update, and then they accelerate all characters up to the level of the latest content to stop people from being too low. But this means every update results in a huge amount of dead content, and accelerating new players undermines the achievement of existing players. It also means people spend a long time stuck at a level cap with no further leveling possible. Other games try to solve this problem by making the content in the game auto-scale based on the player's level rather than having a fixed level. But we don't like this, as it means leveling up doesn't actually achieve anything or unlock any new content. That right there is one of the things that I hated about Diablo 4. Not only was it boring, I thought the game was excruciatingly boring, that you had to walk all over the place. Having all the monsters always be at your level sucks, and I hated that. I despised that. It's nice to go to an area and be overpowered, and that thing that was beating your ass an hour ago is now just trivial. I like this. I like that they're thinking about that. And yes, you're going to be fighting the same monsters that are just different levels, versions of that same monster. But you can always go back and fight the lower level ones if you need to collect something from them or something like that or whatever. I kind of like how they've got this set up. I do not like auto scale. I think that's horrible. I don't like feeling that I'm just as weak as ever everywhere. If I go get new gear, I want that new gear to represent things. And I like this philosophy. So, therefore, we have designed Brighter Shores in a different way. We have gone with what we call the breadth and depth system. It is not intended that you finish episode 1, then go to episode 2 and never go back to episode 1. Instead, it is relatively easy to progress to each new episode, which is the breadth. But even when you have reached the latest episode, you are nowhere near finished. Instead, you can at any time choose any of the episodes you've unlocked and continue to level up further in that episode, which is the depth. So you can go wide, which is all the different episodes, and then you can go deep into each episode, which I think is very cool. Each episode also has harder side quests for this purpose. These side quests are intended for players who want to put in more hours and give a further reason to keep leveling up your professions in earlier episodes. Over time, we plan to add even higher level side quests so that your Hope Port guard level will keep being useful for a long time. The difficulty of a side quest is indicated by its number of stars. And this is what I was saying. You kind of got to read everything they're doing. They don't explain what those stars were. And I saw them, but I was like, I don't really understand what they are. But now that I read this, it makes sense. So the difficulty of the quest is shown by how many stars it is. And those stars pop up in the quest dialogue, which I thought was really cool. The episodes are also heavily interlinked, so you will regularly find yourself going back and forth between them. For example, you might use your episode 3 combat to kill some monsters for potion reagents. You might then take these reagents back to episode 1 and make some potions, which you then use in episode 4. Once you reach episode 3, you can also start making your own weapons, which you can tune for use in any episodes 1 to 4. Therefore, further interlinking the back and forth between episodes and allowing to rapidly gear up in episode 4, which I think is really cool. Please give it a chance. They're going to go on and talk about, I'll just read it off. Why not? I should also mention that all of our testing has shown that once you get used to it, unlocking a fresh combat profession once in a while actually becomes quite fun. Dopamine hits. The earliest levels of the professions are generally the most fun as you level up much more quickly, obviously, and it's all new and fresh. We want people to be able to get that new and fresh feeling each time we launch a new episode, rather than only getting it when they first start playing the game and never ever again. The first time you enter each episode, you will probably start by gearing up and getting a full set of armor and weapons, which is more rapidly rewarding than incremental improvements once you have a full set of rare or epic gear. If you still don't like the idea of multiple combat professions, you can always, of course, pick an episode you like and predominantly stick to doing combat in that one episode. Leaderboards, I could care less about leaderboards, but they're going to be there if you're interested in it. What are they going to do to change things? This is all based on feedback. They changed the levels shown next to your character name to be total level across all professions in all episodes. I guess that's cool. I don't really particularly care, but whatever. This means that it doesn't disconcertingly jump back to 0 while you're in Hope Forest, which makes sense. I guess they're just going to tally it up all together. We saw a player suggestion that could add some special content that relies on multiple combat levels, so like a boss monster or something like that. That sounds cool, so they're going to put that in at some point. And they said, we obviously need to better communicate our breadth and depth system. Not only are people left thinking that once they move on to episode 2, their guard skill will be forever useless, but some people are also trying to complete all of the episode 1 side quests before even starting episode 2 and then finding it too grindy. This post is the first step towards solving this, but we also need to find a better way to communicate this in-game, open to suggestions. One thing I plan on doing is showing the difficulty rating on the main quest as well as the side quests. So as you can see, carrying on with the main quest first is easier than doing side quests. Perhaps episode isn't the clearest word to describe the different sections of the game. That I could change it to area or zone, but I'm not sure, as I liked emphasizing the episodic nature of the plot. Oh, this makes things a lot clearer. Being able to add new episodes to the game that everyone can enjoy without resulting in loads of dead content is very important. We think our breadth and depth design achieves this, but perhaps didn't explain it very well. I like it. I think it's very cool. And seeing them explain this really brought a lot of things into context on what their design philosophy is. They're definitely not going for being just like everybody else. Now, probably as good a time as any to talk about this, but they're not trying to be the next RuneScape. They're not trying to replace RuneScape. They're not trying to be the next Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft or anything like that. All they're trying to do is just create their own game and do their own thing. And I like what they're doing. I am enjoying it. compared to RuneScape 3, there was a reason I quit playing RuneScape 3. It was a little too active for my taste. And I know that sounds stupid because it's kind of an AFK game. RuneScape 3, at least. I don't know about old school, but RuneScape 3 was a bit active for my taste. What I like about this is what I mentioned earlier. I can click on combat and go do something else for 30 seconds or a minute or two or whatever. And then when I hear the combat stop, I can loop back and go start the next combat and go back. It's not distracting. It's not every 5 seconds I got to go poke a tree or do something or click on some gold mining thing to get the next critical strike reward or whatever. Like, that's too active for me. And I know you can just click on mining and walk away. That's not my point. They're not... With RuneScape 3, I was encouraged to maximize my effort in the game. With this, I'm not encouraged to do that. I can click play and just let it go, come back to it when I want to. It's not distracting. And that's the word that is the most important to me, is it's not distracting. Distracting games mean I have to play them full time. And that's fine. But the game that I'm looking for at this moment is something like this that is not going to distract me. It's going to sit in the background. It's also not going to log me out every 30 seconds or 5 minutes or whatever. I can go take a shit and come back, and I'm still doing what I was doing. That is something that they finally fixed that in RuneScape 3. They increased the logout timer, but so far I've not been kicked out for AFK. It's just very enjoyable. And reading this and seeing how they, how they describe all this is very cool. I would also add, I'm curious about how they're going to do these episodes. If they're going to be coming out with new skills in every episode, like, are we just going to have an infinite number of skills? Are we going to have so many episodes and then they just kind of make them all deeper? Like, there's only so many, like gathering and foraging are basically the same skill. It's just 2 different words for it. You know what I mean? Like, how many different skills are we going to get? So I think this is cool. But that kind of goes back to my comment earlier about a roadmap. I'm very curious to see what the roadmap looks like. Like, how many episodes a year are we going to get? How many skills are they planning on per episode? Like, that can't go on for 10 or 20 years. But I hope this game has a longevity to it. It's an MMO RPG. So I don't want to see it just come out for 6 months and then they're out of ideas. You know what I mean? Or how do they plan on keeping this content drop going? What are you paying for the year? But anyway, kind of getting way off track. I wanted to talk about this post because I thought it was really cool. So that's going to do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.